Good afternoon. Because I am not in the office today, we're presenting an encore presentation of a previously recorded devotional. God bless you. Good afternoon. It is Friday, August 7th, 2020. This is the summer thunderstorm season here in southern Arizona. And when the thunderstorms build up in the late afternoon, they're tall, massive, dark clouds with massive amounts of lightning and thunder and wind and rain, occasionally hail. And the rain is sometimes heavy enough that it will fill the washes to where they're running and even overflowing. It can get quite exciting. Well, I want to read to you and talk to you today about an incident in the lives of the disciples when they encountered a storm and Jesus came and made a difference in their lives. And the disciples learned an unforgettable lesson about Jesus. In Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33, the New Living Translation, second edition, it's recorded that immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble, far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." Well, then Peter called to him and said, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Well, yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshiped him. "You really are the Son of God," they exclaimed. There are storms in this life. Some of the storms we endure are of our own doing. We've brought upon ourselves. Other storms are thrust upon us. The wind and the waves come up and we're afraid of drowning. Your storm may not be a physical kind of throw you out of the boat type of storm. It may be a financial storm or a failed relationship or some other kind of disturbance in the free flow of your life. But you recognize the sense of dread and fear the disciples were facing. When you're in a storm, God tends to surprise you by his appearance. Walking on the water is no big deal to God, but it's a tremendous shock and surprise to the disciples. Kind of like God appearing to Job in the whirlwind. God does his God thing, appearing when you do not expect him to, with the command, "Do not fear." When every part of your being agrees with your bowels that you ought to be afraid, Jesus says, "Do not fear." And Peter was doing fine as long as he was looking at Jesus. He messed up when he started looking at the wind and the waves. What are you looking at? Are you looking at the storm or the Savior? The turmoil and the tempest or the master of the wind and the waves? It is inconceivable to God that we constantly have so little faith that we doubt him all the time about everything. We need to be assured that God indeed does have our best interests at heart. The storms that God allowed to come into our lives are storms for our perfection and instruction, that God might be glorified. You know, the 12 disciples would never look at a boat or a storm in the same way. Storms help us grow and increase our faith in God. May we keep looking to Jesus and ride out the storms in his presence, looking to him and not the strength of the storm. God bless you today.